I'm really thrilled to inaugurate this series of curated conversations. And this title is so exciting, The Dramaturgy of Dissent. This was put together by our lead, our research and praxis convener, and one of my close colleagues and collaborators, Iravati Karnik. Usually the honor of making this introduction is hers, but she's had a bit of a domestic situation that she's had to urgently attend. So I got called in at the last minute to steal the limelight. So that's what I'm doing. And I have the lovely pleasure of knowing and having worked with Nisha and Tanvi because of a program that the DSM collaborated with Sophia Steff of Flynn Theatre. We did something called Using Dramaturgy, which was a program we ran in Calcutta and in Bangalore for people who wanted to understand how they can bring dramaturgical practices into their creation processes. And it was a lovely compendium of amazing minds, amazing theatre practitioners, two of whom are here, Nisha and Tanvi. And the beauty of that is that because of that Using Dramaturgy residential workshop, at which Ira was also there, we now have new synergies and new links. And I think one could fairly say that this curated conversation has born out of those synergies and links. So without further ado, I yield the space and I leave it to Nisha and Tanvi to hold this amazing space for all of us. And I hope we all come out learning, empowered, and ready to make work and make interventions for a future in which dissent seems to be a necessary skill set. Thank you.
Thanks, Jihan. Hello, everybody. For those who've been here before, welcome back. For new faces, thank you for being here. Welcome. This is Curated Conversations. This is our next series. So we're done with creating within rehearsal rooms the worlds we wish to build outside of them, which was the first series we worked on with the last semester with the Drama School Mumbai students. And now we're working on the Dramaturgy of Dissent, and this is part 1. And I'm so thrilled to be co-curating and moderating this with Nisha Abdullah, who I will just introduce. Nisha is a Bangalore-based artist. I will be doing a read because there's a lot to talk about. She's a Bangalore-based artist working in the intersections of theatre, community, and education. She's also the artistic director of Kabila, a collective that creates work with an anti-oppression lens, centering on new writing and lived experiences. She's entirely the right sort of person to be curating and running this particular conversation, and I am so thrilled to be doing it with her. She's also a former colleague and a former directing trainee, and there's been many journeys together, so I'm thrilled. My name is Tanvi Shah. I am a theatre maker from Bombay. I direct and I'm a dramaturg, and I'm currently working as associate artistic producer with the Siegel Center in New York remotely, and it is really cool to be doing this again. We are joined today by Lakshman KP and Surjit Nongmai Kapam. Lakshman is an actor, director, writer, and teacher from Karnataka, and he graduated from Intercultural Theatre Institute Singapore in 2018 and Ninasam in 2012. He's been traveling across India, working in various productions with different theatre groups. He's performed in international and national theatre festivals. He's had the opportunity not just to work in professional theatre, but also explore theatre in education with children and young adults. And he is a published poet and, very interestingly for us, an activist concerned with the marginalized people and cultures of Indian society. It is wonderful to have you here, Lakshman. We have with Lakshman Surjit, who is a Manipur-based choreographer and performing artist from Imphal. He started his dance career when he was 24 years old. He was trained in traditional Indian forms and movements before developing an interest in interdisciplinary arts and experimental works. His BA in choreography was from Natya Institute of Kathak and Choreography. He's one of the few dancers and choreographers in Manipur to engage with contemporary dance forms and seek to promote their development beyond traditional Manipuri culture. He's also an award-winning choreographer for his piece Nerves 2014 and Folktale 2016. Surjit, amazing to have you here as well. And I will now yield the floor to Nisha, who will introduce what we mean when we say the dramaturgy of dissent, and also and just kind of brushing up what we mean by dramaturgy at all. And then we'll begin the conversation. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanvi. Tanvi is fellow theater nerd and theater junkie, and also like co-imaginer of many, many things. So it's wonderful to be doing this. I am very, very excited to be here. This is something that I believe is the need of the hour, and DSM and Tanvi joins me in believing that. So it's wonderful to be here. The DSM students, I've been following, all of what Kirtana has been posting, and it's, I've been seeing the little videos and the excerpts and all the fun dishes she's making for you, and the birthday celebrations and all. So I'm deeply envious also of what y'all are doing. To be in a space like that and to play with each other is beautiful. So deep envy. Okay, so the Dramaturgy of Dissent is basically imagined as a series of conversations where Tanvi and I talk to arts practitioners about their evolving resistance work. And there's usually a kind of strange romanticization of the word resistance. But really, when you strip it down, it just comes down to a set of constant actions that you're always taking to dismantling power structures. So that's really what resistance means. We're looking at, in whatever manners we can, with whatever roles we're playing, we're disrupting the world as it is, because it is a world that currently only serves a few. And so this dismantling, when it's done in the theater and in the arts, is what we're calling the Dramaturgy of Dissent. What is it that shapes this lens? What does the creator, the artist, the performer, the collective, the community bring into this space? And how do we together marshal all our artistic and community resources to imagine a different kind of living, being, creating, working, interacting with each other? That's really what this series is about. And the practitioners that we have today and the practitioners that we hope to have here in the future are all people who have pushed this idea, who have pushed this dismantling in some way. And in pushing for this dismantling, they've given us, the viewer, the theater community, the audience, whoever, however you want to see yourself play, this role, they've given us an expansive idea of what the arts can be, what it's capable of being, right? They've done this dismantling, or they're evolving a process of this dismantling in their work, in their rehearsal room, in the conversation they're having with the audience, within their community and external to their community. And most importantly, they're doing this in their own imagination, because it needs to happen here before it can happen in the room, in the work that you create. So which is why it's really exciting to be able to speak to both of them today. We will just get straight into it. We start with Surjit, who's going to share with us a little excerpt from something that he's currently exploring. So this is, as new as it gets, and it's something that he's excited about and he wants to share with us. So Surjit, whenever you're ready, if you could share with us.
Yes, thank you again for all the introductions and all, and thank you everyone for coming for this talk. And I will be sharing, I'm here not as an expertise, but I'll be just sharing my experience within my creation. So today I will be presenting a little bit of short performance. I've been exploring and I work with the object, and we can talk more later. Now let's just watch for 2 to 3 minute performance. Is very short, and I will just take a little time to adjust my camera, maybe if that okay. All right, just give me a time. And I'm going to start. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Surji. Thank you for that. I'll just give you a minute to settle down again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always difficult to do online performance.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But this is the way. We have to find a way how to present our work, you know. Yeah.
Dramaturgy for the screen, yeah. So Surjit, thank you. Thank you for that glimpse into what you're currently working. And I know you've mentioned that you're exploring what this could be, the screen could be for you and for the work that you do. I want to just begin by asking you, what is dissent for you, and how does it make its way into, for example, the explorations you have going on now, some of the pieces that we've discussed of yours, Nerves, Folktale, some of the most powerful pieces that I've seen of yours. How does it make its way into your work?
First of all, for me, as you saw in my performance also, I try to involve props, and also it also helped me sometimes to symbolic my work into something so-called resistance, to show how to show my resistance in my work. So I have to find my way, how can I bring this resistance to my performance. So that is what in this, what you just saw now also is what is happening right now in our society, right? So we have, even the song in the background was about the unity of our Manipur. We have a lot of kind of communities in Manipur. We have more than 36 officially, but there also unofficially there is more community. And now the thing is, the metaphorical, the symbol is the stone becomes the lens of our Manipur, and it's surrounded by hills. And these stones becomes symbolic of Manipur. And this tiny thing is just the unity, is the small thing. Because of this, it was very struggle at one point to balancing this thing. Even if we don't find the very simply thing like to be a unity, to understand ourselves. And that is what what happening now also. There is so many conflict, as you know, that Manipur is a very conflict zone. And that's how also in my work, it reflects me, automatically, even though if I'm not aware about it, but it's into me, to my body. It's a body culture. It's been as a culture for us. So that is how I started to find my way of by kind of asking myself, what is individuality, what is identity, and why, or what is, people, because nowadays people are looking for individuality. Is individuality becomes more like divided our different community, or it is because it is also how the individuality also can bring together? This is the questions I'm asking nowadays within my work.
Okay, I hear you. Just one more, thing about the props, and then we'll maybe come back to some of this in greater detail after we have Lakshman's sharing. But you mentioned props, and of course, of what I've seen of your work as well, there is the body, of course, but there is also usually the presence of like a very strong element, in the form of an object or a prop that you use. Nerves, for example, there was the shoe, there was the bamboo stick, there was the newspaper. Could you tell us a little bit about these choices? How do you make these choices? What is, what is feeding that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I use my prop also, I try to get, I have to think about it. As I also said, individual doesn't mean it's only for myself. It's finding a way, my own voice. At the same time, I also try to have my roots, which is Manipur. And I try to, try to get some object, let's say materials, which is very close to Manipur. And let's say a bamboo, bamboo is very, very popular in Manipur, and it's been from the ancestor. And so they are older than our human being, you know, they are. So that is what indigenous for me, as an indigenous person, the bamboo is one of the ancestor from us, you know, the bamboo. And that is why also I use this bamboo as a symbolical way, as an instrument, as an object for Manipur. And that object is part of our indigenous community. And that's way how I try to merge with our body, with our human body and our ancestors, say, let's call the bamboo, you know, because they've been passing from generation to generations, you know, so they have a history. And so to carry that is already like, you know, the carrying our ancestor. And that is why I use the bamboos in my nerve. And if you didn't watch, you know, Nerve is talk about the indigenous people. It's about the people who are suffering from the powers of the state, of the institution, in the name of the government. And here also, I'm asking myself, what is indigenous people again? And what is indigenous people? Or is indigenous people always need to be always wear indigenous cloth, you know, or practice our name, or you know, that is what I'm trying to also as in my work. And yeah, and the shoes itself also come to about the nerve. I will say let's talk about the folktale. I don't know if you saw the folktale.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. In folktale, I use lemons. It's a lamb. It's just a lamb. People, it's a very political, but you will not see as a political view. It's a very simple, very simple. It's a lemon, just lemon. But you can, if you see the image separately, you will see that how the people are struggling, you know, to get, you know, to how the people are suffering to get something, you know, to understand something, and how the separation is is happening. It's like we believe in these lemons, you know, we surrender it at one point, but this becomes at one point, it can also hurt you. It can also embrace you at the same time what is happening. And that's why that is how I use in folktale of my work also the lemon as an object.
Yeah, in Lemon, I remember the tussle between the individual and the collective. In Nerves, I remember the tussle between the idea of the indigenous person from the outside versus how you see yourself. So these in-betweens that you are working in, that you're creating work, you know, by seeping into this in-between. That's what's really exciting about the work that you make. Some of the threads that you've opened up, we'll come back to it. For now, we will just get Lakshman in because he has a sharing as well, and then we'll get both of you back in again. Thank you, Surjit. Lakshman has a sharing for us. He's going to read out an excerpt of a performance that he made at ITI. And he'll also tell us a little bit about what led to that performance. Yeah, so over to you, Lakshman.
Thank you for inviting me. So while I'm reading this moment, I'm remembering Rohit Vemula, because when I did this piece in ITI, I took a lot from his letter. Yeah. So the name of the play is Fireflies, which includes his letter and my story, one of my stories. So I'll read that. Let my funeral be silent and smooth. Behave like I just appeared on God, and do not shed tears for me. Know that I'm happy dead than being alive. When I was a kid, I loved fireflies. You know fireflies? A small insect which lights up. I loved catching them. I used to catch them very gently and put it into my pocket. It looks like a star. It's like you are having a star in your pocket, or you're the star. You know what? I loved watching TV. My favorite was fighting films. We go and watch Operation Diamond Rocket, Cool Agent 00, sitting outside, watching from the window. We are not allowed inside their house. Mukala, Mukabala playing inside. You know what? When they went inside their room, I used to sneak in and come back, still playing Mukala, Mukabala. One day, power went off. I was so sad. I started to walk back to our ghetto. It was so dark on the way, and the big banyan tree made it much darker. But suddenly, just as I reached the tree, I saw a firefly. Then I went and I caught it, but it burned me. You know what? It was a man. It was a cigarette. It was a man smoking a cigarette. You know what? He started to beat me also because I scratched his nose and mouth. Yeah. So this is like beginning.
Thank you, Lakshman. We had a little bit of a tech disruption, but I hope most people caught that. Yeah, okay, great, super. Thank you, Lakshman.
You can hear me like fully, or is it
just a little bit in the, but I'm seeing nods. I think people caught it. Maybe that was just for me. Just a few bits here and there. Yeah, okay. But thank you. Thank you. Tell us what led to this piece and how you arrived at this, and tell us more about how this piece developed.
Okay. So before going to ITI, they do this audition. I did these auditions in Hyderabad. When I went for the audition, Rohit Vimla, he was protesting. I was there and I was staying with few of my friends. And then like I didn't meet him or anything. Like I was there. I was very much aware that this is happening and all that. Then in January, I went to ITI, January 2016. So after a week, I read this news. I heard this news from my friends that he's no more. That stayed with me. And like that stayed with me for so long, for 3 years. And in his piece, he writes about funeral. And I had to do that funeral in a public space. And it was like a wound that I wanted to be cured, like in my heart. So when they, as part of my course, when I was thinking to create a piece, and I couldn't do anything else. I wanted to do this piece because I wanted to tell this story. And I started to resonate. I mean, like I started to feel like Rohit Vimla was part of me. And yeah, so I was pushed. I was like, there was no escape from it. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, because we haven't seen the piece. Can you tell us a little bit about what the eventual shape and form of the piece was?
Yeah. So I did bit of clowning and all before with a teacher in ITI, and I wanted to use that technique, clowning technique, and say the story. And at the same time, I wanted to do this piece as a funeral. Like it was like a funeral, which like it was silent. There was no music in the piece. And because most of the directions I got from Rohit Vimla's letter, he says like, let my funeral be silent and smooth. And I used And I used some of the poems from this Dalit writer called N.K. Hanumantaya. He used to write in Kannada. He passed away, he committed suicide. And like I felt like that loneliness that Rohit Vemula talks about, it's there all the time. The way, like in this, in N.K. Hanumanthaya's poetry, even in Ambedkar's writing, and whenever even I write story, and there is this common thread I see, that is like there is this enforced loneliness, like that triggered me. So I built that, like most of the directions I took from the letter, and like the piece I used to make the audience read that letter when they were reading. Like they used to get like scared or get. I couldn't read the letter when I was doing the process, and then I used that technique. And in the piece itself, in our community, we do this ritual when somebody died. We carry this pot, like matka.
Yeah.
So we carry that and we break it. And like I did that as a ritual, as part of the piece. And it for me, like that is like it's like funeral which is unfinished. Like we have to do it again and again, because that funeral is like, it gives me, like it makes me think, it makes me reflect, and it makes me imagine to be a star, to be a firefly. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm getting all these threads of the connect between you and Rohit, the ritual of the funeral, the clown nose, the letter itself as the material, the enrolling of the audience into this, and kind of being an ally in telling the story. Yeah. Is this something you will do at some point again when things, open up and
yeah, I wanted to develop, like it was like 30 minutes piece. I wanted to develop that. Like I was reading, by then I was reading Sujata Gidla's Ants Among the Elephants. So I mean, with that, I started to realize that these stories like to be told, like there are many stories to be told, and in a particular way. So I was thinking to like develop the bigger piece, so I can share that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to both, Surjit's piece that he's exploring now and yours. Just as a writer, I'm curious, did you write in Kannada and then perform it in English for the ITI? Or
No, I wrote in English only.
Okay.
Mostly. Like, and then after that, I translated into Kannada.
So
okay. Basically, this is not like written story. Because my mother, she used to tell me stories. She says stories, folk tales. And I'm used to telling stories. I'm very much like into telling stories, not to like write stories. And as a performer, I use this tool most of the times to say stories different. And like one of the technique that I used in this piece is like the same story which you heard just now, the firefly story. It comes differently in the end. You will listen to different firefly, and in which the narrator, the actor, which was myself, telling that story to a small Buddha who never wants to go to sleep without listening to a story. Yeah.
Okay. I really hope we get to see it, post all this corona rubbish. Super. Surjit, can we have you back as well? Yeah, okay, great, you're there. I'm just going to shift to gallery so that I can see everyone. Super. I just also want to, Surjit spoke about this, and I know from our conversations, Lakshmana, that this is something that you're very aware of as well. Both of you, are artists, creators, members of collectives who draw from a culture of deep and long resistance, right? So the entire, what is evolving and into Dalit dramaturgy is something that, is really, really interesting. And people like you, Lakshmana, who are sort of pushing what form and shape this could take, and kind of owning these legacies that you're drawing from. And Surjit, of course, being a Manipuri artist, there is a long continuous legacy that you're drawing from. There is personal history, and there is the history that is sitting in your body that you're bringing into this. There is community history that you're bringing into this. What is it like to work with all of this? Sometimes it can seem a bit burdensome, maybe. So I'm wondering what your relationship with all of this is. Surjit, do you wanna take a go at this first, and then we'll go to Lakshman?
Okay. Yeah. For me, I will say that as in the beginning also, I was saying that I was more looking for my individuality, I myself, and then this make me kind of I found a resistance from these, not from the state, but also from the society itself, because we are very into the society life. We are with the many communities, and we know everyone is other. So and we are very strong to the traditional culture also at the same time. And at the same time also, we are trying to reviving our individual, our identity, our indigenous identity and all. At the same time, being a practitioner of a contemporary artist, and try to go beyond this traditional, and this culture, this kind give me a lot of questions to myself, whether is my individuality is going to divide that, our culture, or is this individuality is asking about what's wrong or right, is I'm not going. And also here, I just want to clarify is that I'm not trying to change the world. I cannot do that. It's just, I just want to, for myself, it's just questioning myself. Is this part also can be also be taken, it's, or can I go in this way? It's just a questioning, because, a lot of in society also, there is always debate is going on. This is right or wrong. But to my question is not about right or wrong. It's my individual voice, So I have my way. I have my right to share my voice, and that is what I'm also trying. At the same time, I'm asking again the question: is individuality sometimes, because what is happening now in this modern life also, because of this individuality, people are also divided. They are not, people like, as I said in before also, different community, different indigenous community want to separate each other because of this individuality, because of their identity. But that is not my current, that is not my ideology. I think for me, the individuality means the way how I find to come together is what for me. It's not to separate it. It's not, and also to go beyond the tradition. It's not about I'm denying my traditions, because of the traditions, because of the history, because of my teachers and my ancestors, today I'm able to explore, to take a new way of, I will not say even new, it's just a way of finding a new myself, my way of working. Because, and that's why I try to also try, in my work also, I will not say the state is more resistance, but my society is more resistance for me. Forgot about the resistance by the state, because they even don't care artists exist, so they don't even care for us, but most of the things is come from the society, because we are still very sensitive our culture, and I also know it, that is why during my way of working, I always keep this resistance also, but at the same time, I also try to find my way of freedom. As you know, it's not freedom in the sense I can do whatever I want. It's not that. I also need to know the sensibility of my state and my society, and that's how I try to, bring, there's a beauty of resistance, beauty, that's what I trying to do in that way.
So what I'm hearing you say is also that you're dismantling the power structures that also you've inherited within yourself too.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm guessing that in your collective there are others who are also attempting to do this for themselves. They're also dismantling those power structures that live in them. Right. So what do you do with these conflicts in the room? You are performer, you are also director, choreographer. There are others in the collective who have their own, who are grappling with all of this on their own as well. So how do you deal with this in the rehearsal room?
Okay, so whenever I talk, I work with my, it's more, as I say, it's more finding our individuality. And when I say individuality, it's not divided, it's finding, it's equality, is how I respect others, equally, and trying to understand it. That's like a conversation. We need to conversation, we need to understand what is happening, what is wrong and what is right. So we try to, this is how we need to bring together. If we don't find the individuality, you will not know because I work with my body, and that is my way of working, and Laxman right, and and there is another way. So if we have to combine it, we need to know individuals' ideology and methodology, and then we can bring it work together. So there also a misunderstanding here, that it's like just an example, right? Like a feminine, I'm not going to say so much, but let's say feminism. When people say, women say feminism, some boys, some men say they are against men because that is what they think, because they become hetero. But it's not about that. It's the same thing when I work with my individuality. It's not that I'm not discriminating my tradition, my culture, my indigenous practice, but it's more about finding your way of living, your way of practice. And that's why, that is how, whenever it comes to the collective, I try to, be yourself, it's all about, understanding ourselves, and also finding your own identity of your practice.
Surjit, I'm going to push you a little bit here and ask you what happens when there is conflict in the room. There must be situations when you disagree. What happens then?
Okay, so let's say the example. So when there is a disagreement, I mean, of course there is, because people always want to say we are right, we are wrong. That's also one of the part of the human being, the so-called ego at one point. And I personally, I will say, when I somehow people disagree, let's say about my work, about my individuality, I try to also listen it, why it is that.
But how does it make its way into the choices that you might make? The choices that would impact your performance making. So if you're disagreeing, how do you navigate that disagreement and then bring it into your performance choices that you make on the floor?
As I said, I'm not trying to find the solution for me. I never said, and I also mentioned before, I am not trying to change the world, and I cannot. For me, it's more about my individual voice. you know. So when so even in my work, if somebody disagree, I have to, you know, say, I have to push my work so that it's helped me to understand more, you know, because if there is no pushing, if there is no explanation, you know, you will not see the different view, you know. That is what I, you know, I kind of, even though I right now, even I feel the resistance from my society, you know, I feel it that, you know, how, you know, I'm also trying to go away from my traditional culture, and because people might think that what is contemporary, because people might think that this contemporary work come from the Western, but which is not, you know. So I'm disagreement can bring it to my work, and also try to more deeper in my way that how I can, you know, educated it to explain, you know, that you know, this is my way of thinking. It's not that this is right, yeah, but this is my way of work, or my way of thinking, and that is important to know. And I also think because of this resistance, because of this pushing, because maybe they also get a new new idea to think more. I think that is helping. It's more like, even though we are disagreeing and agreeing, it's always developing in different way. But the most important is not to violence is important. So that's even in my work also. Even if I find a disagreement, I'm not going to you know, violence. It's more like how I use my symbolical way, you know, how I use a metaphorical way to my work. Even if I want to disagree to the government, to the state, to the society, I use with my bodies and with my performance. Yeah.
Thank you, Surjit. I'm resonating with so much of what you're saying, really. I'm also interested in, you know, when you talk about the audience, you said there is a lot of, you know, conversation in the audience about, or in your prospective audience about, is this traditional, is this not? When you use your performances to bring forth some of this tussle between individual and culture, how do you prepare the audience? You know, how can you help the audience receive this, what you're doing? And how is it, because you also perform in, you know, outside of Manipur, festivals and things which also has a lot of non-Manipuri audiences, is it any different? Because, you know, what are those power structures like? How is it different for you and your collective? Because I remember when I was sitting in, you know, in Bangalore and watching Nerves. I've seen Nerves 3 times. And each time it was in an audience, you know, I barely saw any Northeasterners, really. It was all, and that was, you know, I was distinctly aware of my mainland identity in that context. And it didn't go away. Every time I saw it, it still stayed, you know. And there was it was a deep discomfort that I also felt at that point, to see these particular bodies embodying that oppression and that violence. So I'm also curious about how different it is, and do you think about it? Do you not? How do you navigate that?
I will bring it very simplified myself. You know, my body itself is an indigenous body. You know, so so whenever I go, my body is an object, and whenever I go is you know, it's a part of my culture. You see, and this is what's happening in Manipur. People think that you know, I don't. I will not just mental it. I can feel it that you know, I don't talk very directly or use the obvious Manipuri culture movement, or the way of the costume, even the dress and the dance is all is out of the traditions, it's out of the culture. So there is a questions come from that. They have questions that why you don't use the Manipuri martial art movements, or why you don't use our Manipuri stories, our written by famous people, and also the folk tale and all. So, but for me, as I already said, that body itself is very important for me. And even though if I'm not dancing with the obvious kind of movement for Manipuri dance or music or the costume, my body is still Manipur, it's still Manipuri. You cannot deny it, even if I wear it, if I stay in the US, I will be always Manipuri. It's like instrument. It's like instrument. Let's say tapila. The tapila is instrument. But even if you play with the Western, even if you explore in a different way, tapila will be always tapila, because you cannot change it. Even if you drums with the Western or music, your body is the tapila will be always the instrument of classical. So it can change. So same way, even I myself think, even if I perform in Manipur, I always consider that it's represent as Manipur, but people kind of don't see, they could not see it, because this thing. And in Europe, or in outside, let's say, I mean, for India, somehow you can resonate it because it, Manipuri theater artists and some background of but when I go to the Europe, they always surprised that are you from India or not, because you can because India means the Punjabi or some North Indians, they always think that, but they never thought about us.
Punjabification of everything Indian.
Yeah. So that's already started, that already started the difference of my performance. That's, I think the performance is not only on stage for us, for me, a performance, or this as a performer, I already start once I entry in this Europe country. For me, so because they will look in the passport and they will ask Surjit Singh, and they already like, okay, they will be like doing this, so it's already started the performance. The audience is already there. They will ask questions like they can't imagine it, that who you are, this identity, this individuality. And when they see the performance, when they see my performance, they expect it, the kathak, the tapila and all, and they see very, very kind of, and they also expect, so-called Indians vocabulary, sometimes they expect it, so if Manipuri culture, or or Manipuri martial art, but for me is, I mean, some people appreciate it, some people appreciate it being myself, because that is what I also try to say that, Manipur, you cannot deny it, you cannot classify only by majority, in sense, Meitei is majority, we have more tribe, but let's say Meitei is not only Manipuri, we cannot make by only Manipuri. Same thing, even in our work, even in our culture, you cannot say that this is culture, only this Manipuri, this so-called Khamba Thwebi Jagoy or Ras Leela is only the culture of Manipur. We cannot, because there is so many happening. Even myself, what I'm practicing, the new generation, even let's say the TikTok, let's example, It's one of the generations of the culture. You can't deny it. It's the culture. And that is what we can say it. Yes, this is Manipur. You know, if you want to explain Manipur, you cannot chop it out this ugly, whatever, I will not say ugly, but everything is beauty, you know, so-called, you know, there is a lot of social media is doing TikTok, whatever, you know, it's part of the culture. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is to not be burdened by that lineage or that representation that might be forced on you, but instead to kind of forge, you know, your own, but maybe to use that lineage and that legacy as a springboard when, you know, while you forge your own. Yeah. Thank you, Surjit. Thank you for that. Lakshman, I want to ask you something similar. You know, we spoke about what this, you know, what does it mean to have all of these, you know, native folk forms, art forms to draw from, but what it also means to not have this being taught. There is no institutional, you know, backing of any kind. There is no, there's probably not many archives to draw from. You know, you've spoken about what it means to imagine and language of Dalit dramaturgy. Can you tell us about some of that?
Yeah. So like most of the time when I work, when I move, I think can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So I think my body is an archive. Like I really think my body is an archive, and I access memories of my ancestors through my body. It's not like some superstitious thing. I'm not talking about that. It's really like I move. There is this. I told you just now. There is this loneliness which I resonate with Ambedkar. It's part of my body, my body memory, my muscle memory. I try to access from that. And I don't think like, see, even like most of the time we don't have like archives for folk stories, folk epics, or folk imagination or Dalit imagination. And I don't think that it's lost. And I really think like I always imagine my mother. What if when I'm writing, what if my mother writing this? No, she doesn't. What if my always it's like I try to access my imagination most of the time. That is my like that is very much is like that is resistance for me. Like you cannot corrupt my imagination. You can't. Like that is there for me all the time. It's not just the song you use, a story you use. It's just the sense that like I belong to this community. I belong to these people. These stories are mine, and like I can access them anytime. It's like I move, I access, I talk, and I write the words I use, and the way I move, and even the gestures for that sake. You know, the gestures also they're coming from there. Yeah.
So then I'm curious about how do you, again, something similar to what I was asking Surjit, which is how do you invite the audience into this sort of dissenting imagination that you have?
Yeah, so basically I'm offering something I think it's nice. You might disagree with that. But like I feel with this sensitivity, if I offer you this story, you might like it. You might reject it also. It's not that I am expecting you to like it or dislike. It's not even the question of liking or disliking. So this is something that I'm offering to you, and like I'll try to be open, and I'll be very curious to witness what their response would be, to hear this story, to hear this song, to see this movement, or just to be part of this experience that we are going through together. I really don't see that like I'm different when I'm performing and you're different. No, like we are part of this one performing body, like, and like we are witnessing this experience together. And if you have to, like, I think, like, I always think whenever I work with traditional forms, whenever I learn traditional art forms or something like that, I feel there is this revolt. There is this revolt within me, and I present that revolt only. That is my response to your art or your form or your story. So, like, if you like that revoltness, like that's it. That is there. It's not like I'm showing this because what you're doing is wrong. It's like it's my response. This is how my body and imagination is responding to you. Yeah.
I see so many, I mean, similarities between what Surjit and you are also saying about what you're calling the revoltness.
Yeah.
Is also what Surjit was talking about, the dismantling within. Have you, because your work is so anti-caste and because your preoccupations are also anti-caste, what is the kind of pushback you get from community? Like, what is that like for you? And because you also teach in community, you work with youth in community, what is that relationship like?
That's very interesting. I like to fight when like in the class. It's not like I try not to be aggressive, and like I think my resistance is gentle and all that. But when I teach, most of the time I refer to Ambedkar, I refer to Dalit women writers and my mother and many people. And of course, there will be this resistance to receive, like I see, but like that resistance is good for me. Like I'm seeking an entrance and to be together, to be in that conflict zone. So I recently I was teaching in this theater school in Bangalore called Abhinaya Taranga. We were doing court martial. So most of the students there, they want to go to to TV and serials, and I thought like maybe some realistic play would work. So then I chose court martial, and many of them, they were against reservation, and like they were against Ambedkar's philosophy or all this, and there was this constant tension. There was this constant tension. And I made them do some kind of exercises. They were not agreeing. Like, see, in Bangalore, wherever you go, you get a rented like house to rent. You can live there. Then we did, like, this is a very common exercise, nothing to do with nothing special. I sent them out and asked them to go and ask for a house and say this name and say like you eat beef or you this name and get well dressed and go like very all this. And they went and came back. Their response was very different.
You're an evil teacher.
Yeah. So I was laughing. I was taking like fun. I was having fun. Like, okay, nice. This is happening. So I see this, like, even, whenever, like, most of the time when even in the cultural spaces, they like to ask my full name. So again, I have fun there. I'll say many names, like these names, then I have fun. It's like always, it's like I'm constantly playing. I love that. I don't like okay, like, yeah, sometimes it makes me shut up, but like I don't give up, like just play.
It's what Surjit said, the performance in the body begins much earlier. Yeah. And it's not just about the stage. Yeah, I hear you totally.
And like maybe even some exercises, like I asked some people to imagine, like, this like bone marrow. Yeah, like that is like, okay, it's shocking. So for some people, they don't even know what is it and all that. I try to explain them in very detailed manner. It's not like I want to offend them. Like that should be part of your imagination also, because I'm an actor. I think like the like imagination is the key for me. Like power of imagination is something that like you cannot even imagine. It's like so it should be the case. Can you hear me? I think I'm stuck.
I can hear you, but your screen is frozen, but I can hear you. I hope it's the same for everybody else. Is it? Yes. Okay. but we can hear you. Lakshmana, if you want to switch off your video so that your audio is not disrupted, that's also okay. Lakshmana, can you hear me? I guess not. Okay. Maybe we should just give him some time to come back in. Okay, I think he's going to just come back in. Surjit, I want to just ask something that Nikki has asked in the question in the chat box. Is that true that Manipuri settled out of Manipur hardly go to watch any theatrical performances?
Even myself, I don't see. I mean, there's a lot of students, outside Manipur, but there was a very few artists. There's a very few, not artists. Sorry, there's a few audience come from Northeast people. So yes, this is right.
So you're saying that you're basically creating work for a non-Manipuri audience?
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's for everyone. It's for everyone, but people, I think Nikki is saying that, people don't go and see, performance, hardly they go and see live performance, not only about Manipur, but also for others, so
okay.
That is,
okay.
yeah.
Cool. I just want to go back to Lakshman and close loop on the conversation. Lakshman, before you got bumped out, you spoke about, of course, the loneliness that kind of pervades your body, your creating. I want to talk a bit about the institutional response to work which is from the margins. You teach and you talk about, pedagogically, you've not felt the support from institutions. How do you navigate that? And also, how does that sit with, say, a lot of non-Dalit performers who might draw from art forms? What is the line between appropriation and that freedom that artists should have to draw from influences, right? What is that line like? How does that matter in your performance making? Do you make different choices because of that? These are things that would be great to hear from you. Did he disappear again?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, great. Yes, now we can. Yeah.
Yeah. So, see, when I talk about this loneliness, that is like there are different levels, right? Like you feel like excluded in your village, and you feel excluded in your school. And it's like that when you go to a theater school, I want my song to be there. I want my story to be there. I want my dance to be there. So if that's not there, I feel lonely. It's like, okay, this is not my game. That shouldn't happen. Like I know that's like, it's not like it's the sensitivity that you should feel embraced. Most of the time sometimes we play, right? When we in theater, we mostly play. Sometimes I want you to play my game also, like kids only. Sometimes I'm playing your game, you play my game. It's like, and
जब तक नहीं हो रही तब तक कैच नहीं करना है.
Whoever that was, can you go on mute? Thanks. Yeah, sorry, Lakshman.
Yeah. So sometimes it's about, I make those choices as reference to, as it's not like reaction, as I told you before. It's the response to your pedagogy or this thing. I try to use some kind of instrument which are completely neglected. which I love to, we used to use this. We used to dance for this instrument called array. It's a drum which make a sound, like we used to dance. I have never heard that sound in Kannada theatre as so far. Never heard. I would love to hear that, and I would love you to listen to that also. It's like I really think that's beautiful, and like see if you can listen to that also. If that makes you dance, like let's dance together. That is my stand on pedagogy also. Like it's like include that story and this drum and this song. I really think that like, and Karnataka, I'm talking in context of Karnataka, we have this Dalit movement was so strong in Karnataka. We have lots of songs of resistance, and we learn songs in theatre school. Why are we not learning those?
This would be a good time to speak about Adima.
Like these are like my fundamental questions. Like when I teach and all, I try.
Lakshman, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, great. You broke up in between for me. Sorry if I interrupted. But I was wondering if you want to talk to us about Adima right now, because you mentioned Adima as an influence.
Yeah. So Adima is a cultural institute which is set in Kola, and like it's like most of the people, they were part of Dalit movement in 80s and 80s. So they thought the cultural resistance is the only resistance which can lead us forward. So they decided to form a cultural center. I was part of that. I was teaching there and I was learning there also. So there we used to go to villages and perform, no theater, nothing. We create a performance and we go there and we include, like it's like take some some things which are available in that village and like make them feel okay, they are created this piece from our village. They have taken so many things from our village. It feels it's theirs. It's their performance. They don't feel any alienated. So we did some kind of like these kind of experiments. Like it was working, and then I was realizing like what is like the whole idea of performance and theater spaces is changed for me. Like I was performing in what is this? What do you call? Theaters like black boxes and proscenium theaters, and suddenly like you set out. It's not even a street performance. It's like actual performance is like we are inviting. Even like in that sense, our aesthetics also should be inclusive. They shouldn't feel they're pushed away, pushed out.
So then another question to ask is,
I try to, when I make performances, I try to make these choices which are inclusive.
So then the question is, what is appropriating, and what is, how does one adopt without appropriating? Is there such a possibility when there is so much underrepresentation, when when only some communities are served with art of any kind in an institutionally backed way? Is there such a thing as adopting without appropriation? What does that look like?
I don't know, like it's a very thin line, I really feel, but I think
it really is.
Yeah, I think it's the sensitivity that matters, and how I told like this array instrument, my community, we don't play that instrument. So it's from this thing. And I shouldn't like say that, okay, this is, I don't know how to, like, it's that sensitivity. I shouldn't, I don't know, like this is the,
so
it's very difficult. I cannot really say this is the answer for this.
So you yourself are questioning whether you can own
negotiation. Yeah. I have that question, and like I try to ask myself, and I try to ask my co-creators, and like, can we have this, and how and what? It's like even if we cannot come to a conclusion, if really like I'm thinking that like this has to be there, I go for it. If somebody is blaming me, I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And okay, this is what happened.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that. I shouldn't like, no, I can't say that. Yeah.
And I suppose there needs to be a space for that conversation, right? Because there are no, I mean,
Yes.
the lines are so blurred, there needs to be that space for that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been, fab. And part of what makes this so rich is that both of y'all are people who are actively dismantling within, your body, within your collective, and you're bringing that dismantling to us in the form of your work. So, I really hope that people who have not seen your work yet are able to see that, right? So that I just want to bring this to some sense of now. Like, what are you exploring now, right now? With all this reality of non-performance and corona and digital around us, what are you exploring now? What is it that you're playing with? That would be good to hear. Should we go with Surjit? Surjit, you wanna?
All right, sure. Right now, I've been reviving myself like during this corona for 2 years. I also try to revive myself, look myself, my own performance, and the way how I approach to my work, and then by pedagogy or the methodology of the movement vocabulary. At the same time, and sometimes also how I approach so-called indigenous, performance. Right now, I also kind of exploring in this idea of unseen culture, this and also I kind of now developing. I've been researching about as a mover, as a choreographer. I also think that the technique of dance or movement also very important to understand as a performer, because if you have ability, understanding of your body, then whenever you create something, it will be there. The present will be there, and all the memories. So that is what I've been collecting, the memories and all. And now I kind of introducing Yang Suk. It's called Yang Suk movement, and it is Yang. You can pronounce it like a yin yang, the pronunciation of the yin yang, but this yang is not similar with Chinese philosophy. So this yang is about our spine, our human spine is called yang in Manipuri, Maitailon. And then the suk is the object, is the image, like this is the object. So now my body, the yang is the internal, and then the object is the image, suk is the external. So that is what is the merge together. So, and within this, before this is that stone, when I come with this, with my body, it changes, it's transformed, and that is the kind of philosophy of Yang Suk Min. So even in my practice, also the movement, I try to also, the object, my body become object, and I trying to exploring in that sense that how I can, explain to my performer, explain to my, to my student, if they want to work with me, because that is what also very important. It's not only about just doing it, but it's also more about understanding yourself first. It's not just you imagine it, and you find how to interpret the reality, and you find the sense, and then you keep the memories, and then it becomes to your body. So that's what I'm exploring now. Yeah.
And what about the presence of the screen? How does that change your choices dramaturgically? What does the screen mean for you? Because you are exploring, short digital creations. What does that mean for you?
I think, yeah, it's just kind of electronic. It does change. So, I mean, it doesn't change so much. If I say it's just making just a frame. It's just, imagine you are looking me from your window. Forget about now you are watching me from the window. But because of the internet, we only get a Wi-Fi. The way we kind of approach, presentation is just like you are watching me from the window. The most important is for me is, the performance also is not about there is a different way of approach. And I also need to know how I can, present my work in these small windows. That is I need to keep in mind that how will impact to my audience, audience that to see from the window this tiny hole. So it's also, that is why I don't want to make it like a whole movement, or to bring all this movement. You will miss out because you are watching from the tiny hole. So because of this tiny hole, I need to understand the view from other people, that if she or my audience is looking from the tiny hole, maybe there is very possibility, not to see, whole space. You will see this boundary, this screen. If I'm moving my finger, but you cannot see, right? So I need to come back here and, to move. And that is why also I use this simple symbolical way of this tone and my fingers to, to impact my work, to impact what I want to share to people.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, because all of your work that I've seen, involves the body and involves the chorus also, the use of the chorus, many bodies performing together. So this is, interesting explorations. I hope we get to see something soon. Lakshmana, similar questions. What are you dealing with? How, because of the digital, or because of maybe some kind of a hybrid reality for some time, how are your choices different? What are you bringing into your process?
I think I couldn't really take this digitalization of theater. It was I felt it was very, it was too much for me, and I couldn't really touch people. That was very important for me as a performer, as a creator. So I decided I started to ask myself, how many audience do I need? Physically, one person? Is that we used to see with oral traditions, they tell stories, and to one person also, mother telling a story and all that. I decided to choose that. I didn't do anything. I didn't teach online. I decided not to. It's not like I don't want to I don't want other people to do that. It's just it's my choice. I started to think that, so there are few kids coming my home, live next to my houses. I tell stories to them, some folk tales, and I try how I can use my body and all that. It's I'm teaching them. They're from North Karnataka. They are here because their parents are working here some construction work. I perform for them. It's just tell them stories. These tiny things. They are I think I think because we have lots of images going on, we see, most of the time we see things that I started to sharpen this myself, for myself also, how I can listen tiny things and touch with tiny detailed listening and very sensitive listening, tell stories. So I try to do that. And
So-
that is shaping, that is giving me a different kind of understanding how I really can go with the voice and the text Without this, like I started to think that no, I have just one audience, two people, and I tell them a story. Yeah.
Okay. All right. At this point, I just want to see if there's anyone who wants to just come on video, ask a question. DSM students, probably.
It would be nice to have everybody back on video anyway.
Just want to invite you all to.
We did have one question from Vedant. He's still here.
I'm scrolling up.
I can ask.
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, the question is for Surjit, and it is there a collective dramaturgical writing based on what you are mentioning in the sense of the show is on stage? This was in response to the early part of your conversation when you were sharing, I think soon after you'd done your performance, and you were talking about your practice just initially. Is there a collective dramaturgical writing based on what you're mentioning? I wonder if...
Do you remember what he was mentioning? Is Vedant here? Vedant, are you here?
Yeah.
No, I guess not. No, I guess not. I don't know when that question came in.
It's quite early. It was quite early on. I think when we were just talking about individuality and going beyond tradition, but not rejecting it and so on. Anyway, do we have any more questions?
Hi. Hello.
Hi Rohit, yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
Yeah. So maybe मैं अपना सवाल हिंदी में पूछूंगा. Can you translate to Suji, if possible?
Yes.
तो मेरा ये सवाल था कि
Rohit, we've lost your audio. Rohit, we've lost your audio.
Hello.
You're breaking up. आप क्या टाइप करोगे मैसेज को? I mean क्वेश्चन को आप टाइप करोगे चैट बॉक्स में?
आप मुझे सुन सकते हैं अभी? हेलो.
Yes. Now we can.
I think this is somebody else. Is this Shreyan?
हाँ, श्रेयान के मैं फोन से बोल रहा हूँ अभी.
हाँ जी, रोहित बोलिए.
तो मेरा ये सवाल था कि सुरजीत ने अभी जो 3 से 4 मिनट का जो पीस परफॉर्म किया अभी, और मतलब जो वो कर रहे थे, मुझे वो मिनिएचर पीस के तौर पर लगा था. उसमें मुझे कोई एक डिसेंट का आइडिया या फिर शुरुआती तौर पे नहीं लगा, लेकिन जब उन्होंने धीरे धीरे एक्सप्लेन किया तब मुझे समझ में आने लगा कि हाँ चलो, इसमें वो पत्थर से यूनिटी दर्शाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. लेकिन मैं जानना चाहता हूँ कि अगर वो एक थिएटर पीस अगर स्टेज पे परफॉर्म करते तो क्या ये वो इन्फॉर्मेशन वो चाहते हैं कि ऑडियंस पहले से कुछ जागरूक रहे इन चीजों के बारे में, जो उनको कॉन्टेक्स्ट पता हो, या फिर वो नाटक के बाद चीजें एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, फिर वो कैसे इंश्योर करते हैं कि ऑडियंस को ये सारी चीजें समझ में आए या फिर उनको ये पता चले? अगर उसके बारे में थोड़ा कुछ बता सके हमें.
Yeah. So maybe I can just answer.
Sorry, Surjit, one sec. I just want to make sure that everyone's got the question. For those of you who don't speak Hindi, the question was really that Rohit was talking about how in the beginning he didn't really understand what the object, the rock and the pebble was about, but as it unfolded, he got some sense of that. So his question was, how or when does Surjit worry about audience interpreting meaning, and how much of it they've taken back in terms of meaning making and the context with which Surjit is creating his work? Yeah, Surjit.
Yeah, definitely. I will. I will have to write something about my work. So it's not that I will just show my performance, because that is what whenever I will perform, whenever I want to create something, I already ask so many questions myself, and why I'm using prop, and why I'm using only my hands, my fingers, and what is these symbols for me. It's different communities, and it's become the hills, So even though I will not say directly that because this is about the sensibility again, because at the same, as something like a folktale or nerve, I was talking about how I oppose, is a protest to the government, to the state, to the powers, but I was using in this sensitive way how I write my in synopsis, Then I give kind of a hints, I give a hints to get just a minute, yeah. So I give some hints to the audience that what I'm going to talk about. I give some reference to think about what I'm going to do. But to think about interpretation, that is my just kind of my some kind of hints will be given. But the interpretation can go beyond what I am thinking about. And that is what also for me is to ask question yourself. And I already said, I'm not performing to change my word, to change the word, it's more about my is sharing my voice, I'm not saying this should be right or wrong. And you decide, you interpret it, what is your way of, thinking of my performance. Yeah.
Right. So the meaning that we give to your gestures, your embodying the music, the sound, everything that you're putting for, that you're performing, the meaning is really, what we interpret out of it. And you're not worried about conveying exactly what you had in mind when you were creating it.
I mean, I worry about it because that is why I concerned about my drama tour. It's all about that. I have to worry about it because if I don't worry it, then I can do whatever I like. So I need to very question myself. I think, but you are saying what you are saying also is right. That I mean, the person need to be. Just give me a second. I'm trying to charge my phone. Yeah. So yeah, what I'm saying here is I worry about it, but at the same time, it's also freedom. It's also free kind of the freedom has given to them. You can think, you can explore it. Maybe you can, okay, this is what, maybe I can step further more, because that is what, I can't finish my job. So it's just, I take this step, then maybe if the person have more exploration, then he can take or she can take a new step. Yeah.
We have someone called Roy. Roy, if you're here, would you like to ask your question? Come on video and ask. Are you here? Oh, yes, there you are. Okay. You're on mute. Roy, can you hear me? Yeah,
Can
okay,
you hear
great.
me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm from Manipur, like Surjit, and I've worked with Surjit and closely as a colleague for more than 10 years or a decade. And I'm really pleased to see him here discussing and participating in this wonderful conversation that Nisha, you have initiated, and your colleagues. I don't have a real question because I tend to ramble a bit, in my ideas. Because dissent is always a rambling concept or idea. It goes on and on in many different directions.
Yeah.
So I'm at home right now cooking dinner, and I want to congratulate everyone. But I have my only question is that when we talk about dissent, whether it's a dramaturgy or sorry, where am I? I lost something.
You're loud and clear. We can hear you. Please go on.
Okay. When we talk about dissent, whether it's in dramaturgy or literature or, in activism, in politics or whatever, we tend to get lost in the world of language sometimes, when we converse in this. Am I on?
Yes, you are, Roy. Please carry on. Yeah. We're also conscious of time. So if you can get to your question.
Yeah. So my question is that when we talk about dissent, and I really support all the people who have been participating and contributing to this conversation. But my only concern is we need to understand language as a tool of dissent, not only movement. Language and movement goes together. And we need to, whenever we are in a conversation about dissent, we need to understand how we use our language and our concepts expressed in language and words. So we don't want to get trapped into, in my view, my humble view, we don't want to get trapped into a situation where we are using words that institutions and blah, blah, blah are using, and, and we need to break out, I feel, out of this this idea that we can use the same language and still be.
I hear you. I hear you. You're saying that dismantling requires new languaging, and I hear you. And yes. Roy, please come back for the future, conversations we're going to have. We're hoping that at some point we are able to bring some of this into panels that we will have. So, keep watching for more in this series, and maybe we'll get to some of this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha, for giving me this opportunity.
I also want to just say yeah, I agree with Roy's point. And when he says we shouldn't use cultural center, yes, I agree with that. Culture has no center. When I'm talking space like Adima, I really want Adima to be center. That is another kind of it should be the center, since that is an ideal thing. Culture shouldn't have a center, but since that is not happening, some other thing should become center, I feel. Yeah.
And also, I suppose, Lakshmana, the idea of the center for represented, underserved, under-canonized communities is different from the idea of a cultural center for a mainstream as well. And I think we need to bring that also in, right? Yes. Because a cultural center also allows for archiving, canonizing, memory keeping. There's so much that it also does that maybe the lens is a slight, difference from.
Yes.
Yeah. We have couple of questions which are really interesting in the chat box. I'm just going to ask that. Mithil, in the interest of time, I'll just ask the question, Mithil. I hope that's okay. Mithil asks how to put forth dissent in sense of forms and avoid the hostility. Surjit uses props as metaphors. How does one have a dialogue in such a situation if it arises? Thanks, Mithil. That's a great question. So, who wants to take this? Surjit, Mithil's spoken about your using of props as metaphors. Do you want to take the question?
Yeah, I'm just going through again.
Yeah, I'll just put it at the bottom for you.
Yeah. For this what and I will come back to the Lakshmana said before. When he creates something, the performance. Hello.
Yes, we can
You
hear
can
you.
hear
Sir.
me, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You
So,
can hear you.
yeah. So he was using a kind of a very, very organic music, song, and all, you know. So similar to my whenever kind of using way of metaphor, also I kind of you know kind of bring these very raw materials like very which is very still connected with the nature, you know. And also this thing like I think if you saw in Nerve or Folktale, I was using just a bamboo, just making sound, you know. So it's not it is not about the electronic or whatever, but it's just a sound from this prop, and it's a very, very for me it's quite organic, you know, for I would say to involve with this in my performance, since I was also that is why I will try to come back to the indigenous. You know, whenever I perform, you know, I try to use the object. Just example, you know, this stone. You know, this stone can make many creature. You know, maybe earring or whatever. This have so many doors. You know, we can do it, and but I want to keep this rawness because this is what it is, and you know, and try to, and this is more. I mean, the family of this stone is more. You know, we can learn from them. You know, we can learn from them. You know, it's not only from us. You know, we can learn from this object, and you know, this metaphor doesn't come from my mind. You know, always it's also come from this stone. You know, what I feel when I touch this stone, I feel the texture, I feel the weight, I feel the, you know, how the structure, and it's reflect to me. It's you know, it brings to my bodies, brings to my ideas. You know, that is how it's come to my work.
I'm also, it just occurred to me when I was reading the question that the fact that as creators or performance makers, that this is a question that exists is also something to think about, that there is this question of what to do to avoid this hostility is, I'm guessing, questions that only the dissenting, you know, artist would face. You know, someone who's looking to dismantle is who this question is relevant for as well. And that's just an interesting differentiation as well. Yeah. Mithil, does that answer your question? I'm thinking there's another part to your question. How does one have a dialogue in such a situation if it arises? So Surjit, do you want to continue on from what you were saying? If there is hostility, how does
Lakshmana want to continue?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like that I choose very intuitively. What, like this, as Sujit was saying, that stone can like talk for itself. You know, it will convert into different metaphors. And in the rehearsal space and in the creating process, anything can become like a very tiny thing can become a device to say many things. That is magical for me. Like, it's not that I think or I decide before. Some, of course, some decisions I make very consciously, this instrument, that song, and this, and something emerges from there. I think as creators, and we should trust our intuitions to let that happen. Yeah.
We have one more question from the audience. Rashmi is asking, I want to know both from Lakshmana and Surjit, what do they expect from allyship work in art? Adaptation and appropriation, taking of space, representational politics are conundrums that I've been sitting with too. So allyship, yeah, what does allyship mean for you? How can I suppose the larger community whether you're enthusiasts, whether you're, co-creators, whether you're interdisciplinary performers, artists. What does allyship mean?
For me, it's very political. It's very political. Even though I choose to work with like certain kind of disciplines or certain kind of artists or whatever, like that, like I really think about it. I really think a lot about it. I think that is needed for me. Yeah, that is very much needed for me, who I am like creating with. And yeah, and like it has like it, we have to be, I feel we have to be very careful there also, because lots of like appropriation, all these things, misrepresentation are happening. Yeah, everything is political.
Yeah, what is not politics? Life is politics, you know. If we don't have a politics,
Yeah.
you know, we can't survive.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna jump in there.
Yeah.
Just to also say we will do a hard stop in about 7 minutes and say thank you, because I know that the DSM students are having long days, and yeah, um, to kind of go back to what Sujit was talking about with this idea of the pandemic being a time for reviving oneself, and also what Roy was talking about with theorizing dissent. Um, I wonder, because both of your practices come from your ideas of resistance are also in the doing. You practice resistance as artists. I wonder, how do you develop your ideas of resistance between pieces? Um, Yourself as a political body, how do you theorize? You know, do you take a step back to reflect? Do you do research? Is there theory involved? Or is there any sort of academic side to dissent, or theoretical side at all, or is it all just body in the space, because you both work so clearly with the body, and with these stories?
For me, yeah, please.
Yeah, you can talk.
Okay. For me, when I reviving myself is not only just my body. I think I also explore it. What is happening in this? I nowadays I've been. It's also good to see so many webinar and performance in online, because it's quite a rare thing to see performances from all over the world. But because of this pandemic, you could see many performance and all. So I've been following kind of a lot of as Asians performing arts, you know. So the way how they practice the art form nowadays, because when we always think about the performance, we always think about these contemporary or whatever. We always try to think about the Western culture, but we also we forgot about how our indigenous practice could be a contemporary way to approach, you know. So that is kind of approach to other festival, listening to others, you know. And I also read about the indigenous performing art, what is means of indigenous body, what is body, you know. So that is what I also kind of, because the body physical part is a different physical part, as I mentioned before, is more about, you know, you maintain yourself to get ready to perform, you know. The body is very important. If we don't maintain our body, even if you have it, you know, sometimes you cannot do it with your body. That is why I have this young suck in another way. But I also kind of research and also talk about it, you know, and I also kind of, trying to understand what is the traditions, what is contemporary. And it is contemporary and tradition are separate. It's not, you know, as I mentioned before also, it's about the individuality. But individuality doesn't mean I need to okay, it's me, I can't be, you know, touched by anyone. It's not that. I have my own individual, but, you know, you need to understand there is a best man. There is a one a kind of a womb that we come out from that. So traditional and contemporary are also very, very connection. There is no divided. There is one thing. So that's where I also trying to bring my indigenous practice to the contemporary performance. And yeah, I read sometime, and I also watch other performance, what the other artists are doing, and for the practice of their work.
Thank you. Lakshmana, can you?
Yeah, I think as Suji said, it's very much like it's not just the body being in the space. It's like my body is being affected every single thing that's happening around me. And I go to like oral traditions, oral history, and which like there is this, and I read, and of course I try to understand how politics is affecting our bodies every single moment, and how I try to be in different places as a person. Like, what if I am like living in some village? What if I'm living as that person? And I read about it also. I listen to lots of stories, and I think stories uh, make me think and feel together. And like, of course, there's lots of research. It's like it's involved. Like I have to constantly do that, constantly, and how and to see how I can embody those thoughts in my performance. How I can like bring in physicality to that. That has to touch. Like, it's not just an idea. To translate that, to do that, I keep on thinking. I just like, and all these days, it's more of reflecting also, like reflecting about our previous work, and even the challenges from the students, and everything. Like, yeah, it involves many things.
I think that's a really nice note to kind of end the conversation for those of us who are also between projects, and how we inhabit that space. That's really useful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you. What I heard was a lot of sort of that questioning gaze, is turned inwards often in your work. I'm seeing so much of embodying that questioning in the body, in the objects that you bring into the rehearsal room. I'm seeing the in-betweenness that you're sitting, in the both of you, and how you're kind of shaping that into something that you can then invite us, the audience, into. Thank you so much for this, for being part of this, for allowing us a glimpse into your work. I'm really hoping that all of us can see, at some point in the near future, near being the operative word, that we can see you, live and witness some of this. DSM students, if any of y'all do get a chance to see them soon, go up to them and say that this happened and you were there in the room and listening to their work even before you saw that. So thank you, everyone. Tanvi, is there anything you want to add before we close?
Yes, thank you very much.
Right on time, I want to sort of point out.
Thank you very much, Lakshman and Surjit. If I could request you to put your email addresses, perhaps, into the chat box, so that the students,
and Instagram handles and social media handles, so people can follow you, your work.
Whatever ways we can reach you. And if people have more questions after, of course, they can reach out. And we hope to delve more into this conversation of the dramaturgy of dissent as we go on. But thank you. Thank you.
So, before we leave, the next one is scheduled for 30th of this month. And it's we're talking to two collectives that have a lot in common, do a lot of work in community. You'll know about them as we move through the next few weeks. It's exciting. Please come. All of you who are here today, please come back, and hopefully we'll have many more in the series. Okay, do we close then? Super. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Drama School Mumbai, I would like to thank our guests, and our curators for making this lovely evening possible. Thank you very much. Really.
Thanks, Jehan. Thank you for allowing us to borrow DSM as a incubator for some of this. Thank you very much. All of you have a great evening, and see you on the 30th. Surjit, Lakshmana, please hang on. We'll